The last person I ever expected to ask me for a dance was the woman who broke my heart 3 years ago. My name is Ethan Carter. I'm 30 years old. For 3 years, I convinced myself I had moved on. I built a new life, a new routine, a new version of myself. At least, that's what I kept telling everyone. The truth? Not a single day passed without thinking about her. Her laugh, her smile, the way she used to steal my hoodie, even when she wasn't cold. Some memories don't fade. They just learn how to hide. 3 years ago, Emily walked out of my apartment with a single suitcase and never looked back. No screaming, no dramatic goodbye, just one sentence that echoed in my head every single night. I think we want different futures. And just like that, the woman I thought I'd spend my life with became a stranger. I never called. She never came back. Eventually, I stopped waiting. Or at least, I tried to. Last Saturday, my cousin Daniel got married. I almost didn't go. Weddings weren't exactly my favorite place anymore. Watching two people promise forever has a different effect when you've already watched forever fall apart. But Daniel wouldn't take no for an answer. So there I was, standing near the back of the reception hall, holding a glass of whiskey, pretending I wasn't counting the minutes until I could leave. The room was beautiful. Golden lights hung from the ceiling. Soft piano music floated through the air. Everyone was laughing. Everyone looked happy. I smiled whenever someone looked at me. The kind of smile that disappears the moment nobody's watching. I was halfway through my drink when the ballroom doors opened. I didn't even bother looking until I heard someone whisper, "Oh my God, Emily's here." Everything inside me stopped. My heartbeat, my breathing, even time itself. Slowly, I turned around, and there she was, standing at the entrance, wearing a navy blue dress, like she'd stepped straight out of a memory I had spent years trying to forget. Her hair was shorter now, her smile a little more careful. But those eyes, those beautiful hazel eyes, hadn't changed at all. For one impossible second, it felt like the last 3 years had never happened. She looked across the room. Our eyes met, and neither of us looked away. Neither of us moved. Neither of us smiled. We just stared, like two strangers trying to recognize the people they used to love. Then she smiled. Not the bright smile that used to light up every room. This one was different, smaller, nervous, almost fragile. She started walking toward me. Every step made my heart beat faster. I wanted to leave. I wanted to stay. I wanted to say something. Instead, I just stood there. When she finally stopped in front of me, there was barely 2 feet between us. "Hi, Ethan." Her voice was exactly the way I remembered. Soft, warm, dangerous. I forced a smile. "Hi, Emily." Silence. The kind of silence that carries 1,000 conversations. She looked down for a moment, then quietly laughed. I practiced this conversation about 100 times. I couldn't help smiling. And none of them sounded this awkward. For the first time, the tension eased, just a little. Across the room, the DJ picked up the microphone. "All right, everyone. Before we wrap up tonight, one last slow dance." The lights dimmed. Couples slowly walked onto the dance floor. Emily looked toward them, then back at me. She took a deep breath. "I know I probably don't have the right to ask you this." She hesitated. But she slowly held out her hand. "Will you dance with me?" I looked at her hand. The same hand I used to hold every morning, every road trip, every movie night. I swallowed hard. "Emily," she interrupted me. "Just one dance. That's all I'm asking. One last dance." I looked away. Every part of me wanted to say no, because saying yes meant opening a door I'd spent 3 years trying to lock forever. I laughed quietly. "What happened to the guy you're dating?" Her smile disappeared. "I'm not dating anyone." "What about the engagement?" She slowly shook her head. "It ended." "When?" 8 months ago." "I'm sorry." "So am I." Another silence. She looked into my eyes. "I didn't come here expecting forgiveness. I didn't even expect you to talk to me. I didn't want another year to pass without seeing you." My heart was losing the fight against my head. I looked around the ballroom. Everyone else was dancing, laughing, living. And somehow, it felt like the entire room had disappeared. There was only her, waiting, still holding out her hand, not demanding, not begging, just hoping. Finally, I sighed. You always did know how to make things difficult. She smiled through watery eyes. I learned from you. I shook my head, and before I could change my mind, I reached forward and took her hand. It was warm, familiar, like coming home, to a place you promised yourself you'd never visit again. Without saying another word, I led her onto the dance floor. The music began, slow, gentle, painfully beautiful, and as my hand rested on her waist, I realized something. Some people don't just leave fingerprints on your heart, they become part of its heartbeat. The music carried us across the dance floor, slowly, almost carefully. Neither of us spoke, not because we had nothing to say, but because there was too much. Her hand rested lightly on my shoulder. Mine was on her waist, a place that had once felt like home. For a long moment, the only thing between us was the sound of the piano. Then she whispered, "Do you remember our first dance?" I smiled without thinking. "Your sister's birthday." She looked surprised. "You still remember?" "I remember everything. You wore red Converse with a black dress. You kept apologizing because you thought sneakers ruined the outfit." She laughed, a real laugh, the kind I hadn't heard in years. "And you told me," she said, "that I'd still be the prettiest girl in the room." I meant it. You always knew exactly what to say. I shook my head. "No, I only knew what was true." Her smile slowly disappeared. "I've missed this." I looked away. Don't do that." "Do what?" "Make this harder than it already is." She lowered her eyes. "I'm sorry. I know. I don't deserve to be standing here." I stayed silent, because the truth was, I didn't know if she did, or if I did. After another few seconds, she finally spoke again. "Ethan, I need to tell you something." I looked back at her. She took a slow breath. "The day I left, I lied to you." My heart skipped. "What do you mean?" She looked toward the floor. "I told you. We wanted different futures. That wasn't the real reason." My stomach tightened. Then what was? Tears slowly filled her eyes. "My dad. He had just been diagnosed with heart failure." I frowned. "You never told me." "I couldn't. He begged me not to. He didn't want anyone to know." Until the surgery. I stood there, trying to understand. She continued. "The medical bills kept getting worse. My mom couldn't work. My younger brother was still in college. I felt like the whole family was collapsing." I squeezed my jaw. "Emily, why didn't you tell me?" She smiled sadly. "Because I knew you. You would have sold your car. You would have emptied your savings. You would have given up everything, just to help us." She looked straight into my eyes, and I couldn't let you do that. So, I convinced myself that leaving you would hurt less than watching you sacrifice your future for mine. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. 3 years of anger, 3 years of blaming her, and suddenly, nothing made sense anymore. "You should have trusted me. I know. I was scared. I thought, if you hated me, you'd move on faster." She let out a shaky laugh. "I guess I was wrong about both of us." A tear rolled down her cheek. "I never stopped loving you. Not for one day. I tried. I really tried. I dated someone else. I smiled. I traveled. I pretended. I was happy. But every night, I wondered if you still hated me." I felt my chest getting heavier. Everything I'd carried for 3 years, the anger, the betrayal, the loneliness, was beginning to crack. But forgiveness wasn't as simple as one confession. Not after 3 years, not after all the nights. I spent learning how to live without her. I couldn't breathe, not because I was angry anymore, but because everything I believed for the last 3 years had just fallen apart. I looked into her eyes, searching for something, anything, that would tell me she wasn't telling the truth. But all I saw was guilt, the kind that doesn't disappear, even after years. The song continued, softly playing in the background. Neither of us noticed anymore. The world around us had faded away. There was only her and me, standing in the middle of a dance floor, trying to understand how love had gone so terribly wrong. Finally, I spoke. "You should have trusted me." She nodded. "I know. You made that choice for both of us. I know. You didn't even give me the chance to stand beside you." A tear rolled down her face. "I know, and I'll regret that for the rest of my life." I was terrified, Ethan. My dad needed surgeries. My mom was falling apart. My brother wanted to quit college so he could work. I felt like I was drowning. And somewhere in my head, I convinced myself that losing you was the only sacrifice I could control. I closed my eyes. For years, I imagined hundreds of reasons why she'd left me. Maybe she stopped loving me. Maybe she found someone better. Maybe I simply wasn't enough. Never, not even once, did I imagine she was trying to protect me. When I opened my eyes, she was already crying. "I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm not asking for another chance. I couldn't keep letting you believe that I left because I stopped loving you. Because I never did. Not for 1 second. You know what's funny? I still remember your coffee order. 1 cream, no sugar. You still leave 5 minutes early because you're scared of traffic. You still rub your neck when you're stressed. And you still look away when you're trying not to cry." I laughed quietly. Despite everything, she was right. Some habits never change. "You've been watching me?" She smiled through her tears. "Sometimes. Not in a creepy way. I'd see your photos online. My cousin would mention your name. I'd hear little things about your life. Every time, I was happy you were okay. And every time, it reminded me that I wasn't part of your life anymore." Another silence. This one felt different. It wasn't heavy. It wasn't angry. It was honest. For the first time in years, there were no lies between us. Just 2 broken people, finally telling each other the truth. Then she reached into her purse. "I've carried something for 3 years." She pulled out a small folded letter. The edges were worn, like it'd been opened and closed hundreds of times. "I wrote this the night I left. I wanted to give it to you, but I couldn't." I looked at the envelope. My name, written in her handwriting. The same handwriting I used to see. On birthday cards, sticky notes, and little love letters hidden inside my lunchbox. She slowly placed it in my hand. "I think it's finally time you read it." My hands refused to move. The letter felt heavier than it should have. Just a few sheets of paper. Yet somehow, it carried 3 years of unanswered questions. I looked at Emily. "You kept this all this time?" She nodded. "Every single day. I almost threw it away. 100 different times. But I couldn't. Some part of me kept hoping that one day you'd finally read it." I looked down at the envelope. The paper had faded. The corners were bent. It had lived inside her purse for years, waiting. Just like we had. Slowly, I opened it. Inside was a single handwritten page. Her handwriting was the same. Messy, beautiful, familiar. I cleared my throat and started reading. "Dear Ethan, if you're reading this, it means I finally found the courage to tell you the truth. I know you'll hate me, and honestly, I probably deserve it. But if I stay, you'll give up everything to save my family. And I can't let the man I love destroy his future because of me. I know you'll try to stop me. I know you'll tell me we'll figure it out together. That's exactly why I have to leave. Because I know you'd choose me. And Ethan, you deserve a life bigger than my problems. If one day you forget me, I hope you find someone who loves you the way you deserve. But if somehow, years from now, our paths cross again, I hope you'll remember that leaving you was the hardest thing I've ever done, and the greatest love I've ever had will always be you. Love." Always, Emily, I couldn't finish the last line. My vision blurred. For 3 years, I thought she'd left because she didn't love me anymore. The truth was almost unbearable. She left because she loved me too much. I slowly folded the letter. Neither of us spoke. There was nothing left to explain. Everything was written on that single page. Emily wiped another tear away. "I never expected you to forgive me. I only wanted you to know who I really was. I looked at her. No. I finally know who you always were. She frowned. What do you mean? I smiled sadly. The woman who loved everyone else more than herself. And that's exactly what broke us. She started crying again. I'm so sorry, Ethan. I stepped closer. Close enough to hear her breathing. Close enough to remember what home used to feel like. For the first time in 3 years, I wasn't looking at my ex. I was looking at the woman I never truly stopped loving. Emily couldn't stop crying. Neither could I. 3 years, gone. 3 years, wasted. Not because we stopped loving each other, but because we stopped talking. She looked at me. I've imagined this moment more times than I can count. In every version, you walked away. I smiled sadly. I almost did. She lowered her eyes. I would have understood. No, you would have accepted it. She nodded. Maybe. Another quiet moment passed. The music had already ended. Most of the guests had returned to their tables. A few people glanced in our direction. None of it mattered. The rest of the room felt miles away. I looked at her. Tell me something. She nodded. Anything. If I hadn't come tonight, would you have kept carrying that letter forever? She smiled through her tears. Probably. I wasn't brave enough to find you. But I promised myself, if fate ever gave me one more chance, I wouldn't waste it. I laughed softly. Fate has strange timing. It really does. She looked toward the ceiling. You know, I still celebrate your birthday. I blinked. What? Every year? I buy your favorite chocolate cake. I light one candle. And I wonder if you're happy. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You did that for 3 years? She nodded. I know it sounds crazy. It sounds like you never left. She looked at me, with tears still filling her eyes. Ethan, I don't expect us to go back. I know too much time has passed, too much pain, too many scars. I wanted one thing. I waited. She whispered. I wanted you to remember me, without hate. I stepped closer. So close. Our foreheads almost touched. I don't hate you. I don't think I ever really did. I hated what happened to us. I hated the silence. I hated not knowing why. But I never hated you. Her shoulders began to shake. She covered her face, trying to hide the tears. Without thinking, I gently held her hands. It's okay. You don't have to hide anymore. She slowly looked up at me. Her eyes were searching mine, almost afraid to believe what she was seeing. I've dreamed about hearing you say that. I smiled. And I've dreamed about understanding why you left. I guess we're both finally awake. For the first time that night, she laughed. Not the nervous laugh, not the painful one, a real laugh, the one I'd fallen in love with years ago. And hearing it again felt like watching the sunrise, after believing the night would never end. The night air was cool. The parking lot was almost empty. Inside the ballroom, the celebration continued. But neither of us wanted to go back. Emily looked up at the stars. I used to wonder if you ever looked at the same sky, thinking about me. I smiled. Every time it rained. She looked at me. Why rain? Because you always loved rainy nights. You'd open the windows, make hot chocolate, and force me to watch those old romance movies. You never liked them. I didn't. But I liked watching you enjoy them. She laughed. You were a terrible liar. I know. You cried during half of them. I shook my head. Those were allergies. She laughed even harder. For a moment, it didn't feel like two broken people trying to fix the past. It felt like us, the way we used to be. Simple, comfortable, real. After a while, she became quiet again. Ethan, can I ask you something? Of course. Did you ever love someone else? I thought about it. I tried. I went on dates. I even convinced myself. I was ready, but every conversation felt incomplete. Every goodbye felt empty, because somewhere I was still comparing everyone to you. A tear escaped her eye. I did the same. I kept looking for pieces of you in other people, but no one ever felt like home. We stood there, letting the silence speak for us. Some silences don't create distance. They create understanding. Then I reached into my jacket pocket. There was something I never got rid of either. She looked curious. Slowly, I pulled out an old silver keychain. It was scratched, worn out. A tiny metal moon, hanging beside a faded heart. Her eyes widened. "You still have it?" I smiled. "You gave it to me. On our first anniversary. You said, 'Now you'll always carry a piece of me.' I guess. You were right." She covered her mouth, trying not to cry again. "I thought you would have thrown it away. I almost did. More than once. But every time, I couldn't. Because throwing it away felt like throwing away the happiest years of my life." She stepped closer, close enough that I could hear her heartbeat. "I don't deserve this." "No, you deserve the truth. And the truth is, I never stopped carrying you with me either." She slowly reached for my hand. This time, I didn't hesitate. Our fingers intertwined, just like they had 1,000 times before. Only this time, we both understood how precious that simple moment really was. We stood there, hand in hand, without saying a word. Sometimes, silence says everything that words never could. Emily looked into my eyes. "So, what happens now?" I smiled. "I honestly don't know." She nodded. "Neither do I. But for the first time, I'm not afraid anymore." I squeezed her hand. "Neither am I." The cool night breeze brushed past us. Somewhere behind us, the ballroom doors opened. Guests began leaving. Cars slowly pulled away. The wedding was over, but somehow, it felt like our story was just beginning. I looked down at our hands. You know, for 3 years, I kept asking myself what I would have said if I ever saw you again. She smiled softly. "And? I thought I'd tell you how much you hurt me. I thought I'd tell you I never wanted to see you again." I laughed quietly. "But life has a funny way of proving us wrong." She tilted her head. "What do you want to say now?" I looked into her eyes. "The only thing that matters. I still love you." Time stood still. Her lips trembled. She tried to speak. No words came out. Only tears. Happy tears. The kind that only appear when your heart finally hears what it's been waiting for. "I love you too." I never stopped. Not for one day. Not for 1 minute. I stepped closer. Slowly, I wrapped my arms around her. She buried her face against my chest and held me, like she was afraid I'd disappear again. For the first time in 3 years, we weren't holding on to the past. We were holding on to each other. After a long moment, she looked up at me. "So, does this mean I get another chance?" I smiled. "No." Her face fell. Then I laughed. "You don't need another chance. We're simply continuing the story. We never should have stopped writing." She laughed through her tears. "I like that answer." I gently brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. "There is one condition." She raised an eyebrow. "Anything. No more running. No more deciding things alone. No more protecting me by pushing me away." She nodded immediately. "I promise." "And you?" "I promise to stand beside you. No matter how hard life gets," she smiled. "Deal." We shook hands, like two best friends, making the easiest promise of their lives. Then, without thinking, she leaned forward and kissed me. 1 year later, we found ourselves on another dance floor. Only this time, it wasn't someone else's wedding. It was ours. The same song that played during our last dance began filling the room. Emily smiled and held out her hand. "Mr. Carter, may I have this dance?" I laughed. "I was hoping you'd ask." As we danced, she rested her head against my shoulder. "You know, if I could go back, I'd change everything." I kissed her forehead. "No, don't." She looked up at me. "Why?" "Because if life hadn't broken us, we would have never learned how precious love really is." She smiled. "I guess every heartbreak was leading us here." I nodded. "Exactly. If there's one thing this journey taught me, it's this. Real love doesn't disappear when life gets difficult. Sometimes it gets buried under fear, silence, and impossible choices. But if two hearts are willing to tell the truth, even after years apart, love can still find its way home. And maybe, just maybe, some stories don't end when two people say goodbye. Maybe they simply pause until both of them are finally ready to dance again. If this story touched your heart, tell me, would you give your first love a second chance? Leave your answer in the comments below. And if you believe that true love deserves another chance, don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next story.